Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's head-to-head comparison, let's take a look at the all-new 2025 BMW M235i xDrive Gran Coupe and compare it to the previous generation. Now, I borrowed these from Hendrick BMW Northlake and Hendrick Mini, so take a look at their websites down in the description, along with the full detailed review that I have for this latest generation. So let's move on to the MSRPs. For the 25-year model, they start just over $50,000 versus closer to $49,000 for the 2024-year model. So not that much of an increase in the MSRP. However, underneath the hood for the 24-year model, this has a 2-liter twin-power turbo 4-cylinder. It is paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission and pumps out 301 horsepower, 332 pound-feet of torque. For the 2025, this has a 2-liter twin-power turbo 4-cylinder paired to a 7-speed dual clutch, and it pumps out 312 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. Now, both of these have all-wheel drive. They're both weighing in right around 3,600 pounds. 0 to 60 is going to be 4.2 seconds for the 25-year model, closer to 4.6 seconds for the previous generation. Top speed is the same at 155 miles an hour, and then fuel economy is the same at 24 in the city and 33 out on the highway. Now, the biggest difference, of course, is the exterior styling. We have some interior features that are different as well. But up front, you'll notice the kidney grille has a little bit more of the same design as the new M5 that just came out. This model has a forward-facing camera along with a sensor for distance pacing. There's parking sensors and a massive cutout in that lower section. Now, there's also LEDs up front with a much different design, a little bit darker of a housing compared to the previous generation. And then with the previous generation, the kidney grille is a little bit taller, definitely different trim accents. There's also active grille shutters behind it versus just being straight open. In the lower section is the distance pacing sensor, and then there's some more gloss black accents, but you'll notice the inlets on the sides are much larger than the smaller one that you see for the newest model. And then the hood lines are going to be fairly similar, but the top of the bumper where the BMW badge is also different with some more indentations versus being more flat for that previous generation. Now, as we work our way to the side, you'll notice some much different wheels. Both of these have the blue M Sport brakes, so those are still retained, of course, and both have that two-tone design. Now, you'll notice for the 25-year model, there's a camera and a turn signal with gloss black for the mirror, and then we just have a turn signal for this model. I believe the camera was an option for the previous generation too. There's a sunroof up on top for both of them. You'll notice gloss black for the newer model versus just body colored for the previous generation. And then for the sides, door handles are the same. There's going to be some fairly similar lines, more gloss black in the lower side skirt. It's the same on the previous generation too. So they do have a fairly similar side design. However, you'll notice on the 2025-year model, there's now a 2 stamped on the back of the glass there versus just having the gloss black trim accent for the previous generation. And then in back, this has a spoiler, there's LEDs, backup camera with all the sensors, and then the dual exhaust. Now, as we work our way to the cargo space, you'll notice that there's a good bit of space. This is a smaller vehicle. You have cargo on the passenger side. You get storage underneath the floor, and then you can also fold down the back seats for additional space. Now, there's also 2 grab handles up top, so that makes it easy to close. Now, working our way to the rear end of this model, there's a backup camera, the spoiler up top, LEDs, which have a different design to them, and then you'll notice the quad-tip dual exhaust for this model compared to the previous model. And then in back, storage is going to be about the same. You get storage underneath the floor, that same cargo net, and then being able to fold down the seats and 2 grab handles up top. Now, as we work our way to the interior, you'll notice for this model, there's the window control along with the release handle, and then the interiors are going to vary, of course, depending on how you spec them. But at 5'10", I have a good bit of space. There's storage pockets, you have vents and auxiliaries, and then at my height, I'm just barely touching the headliner here. It is a small vehicle, so if you're taller than me, it's going to be a little bit tight, but I could sit in the back here at least to ride around town. Now, in the middle, you have the armrest with 2 cup holders, and then you can also fold down this middle seat if you need to. And then you have those small cargo windows there just to help see around this pillar in the back. Now, as we work our way to the latest generation, for this door panel, you do have to unlock the vehicle. There's no proximity door handle in back. The other vehicle was just already unlocked. This door panel has a little bit different of a design, but we have a similar location for both of those, storage in the lower section. And then again, interiors will vary. But at my height, I still have a good bit of space. You have vents and auxiliaries, and then it's about the same headroom. So nothing's really changed as far as the height goes. It is a small vehicle, but it's still doable. Now you have the armrest, cup holders are exposed, and then you have the same seat that folds down in the middle, and those cargo windows are going to be fairly similar. But let's work our way back to the 2024 because we'll start off with the technology that it previously had. Now this has memory seating adjustments, power folding side mirrors, window controls, trunk release, and additional storage down below, and then automatic front seats with the manual leg support there. Now as we hop in, the start button is down below, and this has a leather steering wheel. There's brushed aluminum accents. It is a heated steering wheel too. And then on the left side, all of the cruise control settings. Right side, you have volume tuning, Bluetooth and voice commands. And then you have this control to bring up your media and radio within the gauge cluster. Now you can also use this button on the left of the turn signal stalk and go through information on the gauge cluster. So it is fixed in terms of the rest of the information that is being shown. So you have a little bit that you can go through. Now you have storage on this left side, along with headlight adjustments. There's a head-up display, and then the infotainment system here where you can scroll through all of this information. It is the older system, but it's pretty easy to use. You have all the shortcuts down below, so that way you can quickly get into all of this information. So it's pretty easy to use, which is nice. You have vents underneath that, along with shortcuts to the intelligent safety. Now this also has dual zone up front. So you have your temperature, fan speed, where you'd like the air to go, and it only has heated seats for driver and passenger. Now you have volume, tuning, and presets. There's also wireless charging with cup holders and auxiliaries. You have those shortcuts for that screen. And then this model just has the backup camera, so you will see that one angle. You can also shift using the shifter or the paddle shifters. You have traction control, parking sensors, engine start stop, and then a few different driving modes that you can go through. So it will change your throttle input. There's auto hold and the e-brake. You get an auxiliary with storage down below. There's also storage in the glove box. And then up top, you have garage door buttons with a rear view mirror and then controls for the sunshade and sunroof. And then here's a look at visibility. Pretty easy to see over both shoulders. You have those large windows there again, which are very helpful. And the pillars are pretty small too. But now let's take a look at some of the improvements. Now this does have memory seating adjustments, power folding side mirrors, and the rest of the controls. Just a little bit different of a layout there. And then as you can tell, a much different seat. It is a different color, of course, but you have your automatic adjustments with the manual leg support. Now, as we hop in, we have a much different design for the start button, and then a much different design for the leather steering wheel too, with the spokes in the lower section, massive paddle shifters on both sides. You have cruise control settings, and then there's volume, you have music, along with Bluetooth and voice commands, and then with this digital gauge cluster, you can go through a little bit more information. So you can go into all of this content, which is going to be a little bit similar to the previous model. However, there is going to be some more information. You can also adjust the layout, and you can go into the head-up display. So you have a few more settings that you can go into versus the previous model. Now on the left side, there's no storage. You don't have any headlight adjustments. There's just the one air vent because the headlights are now on this turn signal stalk here. And then you also have this infotainment system, which doesn't have any controls down below. So it is strictly a touchscreen system. You have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, a drive recorder. You can go through quite a lot, and your home screen is just a little bit different of an orientation. Rather than swiping left and right, you have this left side along with the map on that one side. And then you can get into your heated seats, you have temperature adjustments, and then your climates too. Now this also has ambient lighting. It's in the middle there. It's also on the top of the air vents here. So when you change driving modes, those will illuminate to their corresponding modes. You have air vents, you have storage with wireless charging, auxiliaries and cup holders, and then you also have volume tuning, and you have a few different settings here that you can go into, along with different driving modes. So very similar in terms of the driving modes, just a little bit different of a layout. Now this has the 360 camera system. So if you had that on the previous model, it would be fairly similar to this in terms of visibility and what you can see around the entire vehicle, which is very nice. When you put it into drive, you can also pull up now the forward-facing camera too. So that's very helpful. And then you have the e-brake behind that. Now you have a little bit of storage, no auxiliary in that armrest, and then you have plenty in the glove box there too. And then you don't have any garage door buttons up top. You have dome lights and then controls for the sunshade and sunroof. And then visibility is probably going to be about the same. There's really no changes or anything with those pillars in the back there. But with the exteriors and interiors wrapped up, let's get both of these out on the road and see how they drive. And so we'll start off behind the wheel for the previous generation in sport mode second gear. Here we go. Definitely has a good sound to it, and it has a good bit of power. Now you'll notice with the latest generation, we do have almost a flip-flop in horsepower and torque. We have more power, but we have more torque in this previous generation. Paddles are also very responsive for this 8-speed. And it definitely is very fun to drive. Now you'll notice too, we have a much different layout for all the tech features. So if you're not a fan of the curved screen, you can of course go with this model here. But this is a very nice vehicle to drive. I don't have too much experience with the 2 Series from BMW in general. I've been able to drive the latest generation a bit more than this model here. But we have the physical shifter down below, which I know a lot of people do like. And even on a bumpy road like this in sport mode, it's really not all that bad. This would be a great daily driver. It's very small, which means it's good for parking lot situations, but it's still big enough to be able to put in other people and just use it every single day. Now in terms of eco mode, we can still get up to speed there, but it is a much delayed throttle response. But definitely a comfortable vehicle to drive. The technology, it's not outdated, but when you put it back to back with the 2025, I could see it being a little outdated, but it's still going to provide you with everything that you need to use this on a daily basis. It's super easy to go through, and it would make for a great daily driver. Now, with the previous generations, there have been a hit in their depreciation. So for 2022, 2023, and 2024, you can get a heck of a deal on any of those models, depending on the mileage that they have, of course, and especially compared to their original MSRP. So with this model here, roughly around $49,000, $50,000, you can pick these up for the high 30s, low 40s. So if you're not looking to go brand new, you can definitely get a great deal on a used model. So let's go ahead and hop into the 2025. And behind the wheel for the 2025 Sport Mode second gear, here we go. Sounds about the same, to be honest, and with a mild acceleration there, the power seems roughly the same. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a little bit more horsepower here, a little bit more torque in the previous model, so interesting to see there's not a bump in torque for the latest model here. But we have a 7-speed dual clutch, we have very large paddle shifters too, and there's also a boost paddle for the left side too. So hold it for a few seconds, and this will downshift and then count down from 10 seconds to really give you a little bit more power in certain situations that you are in. But this is what it's like to be behind the wheel now, where we definitely have a much more updated interior, in my opinion. We still have the same overall size, very similar features, just a much different layout. We don't have that physical shifter like a lot of people do like, but we have a small curved screen, which I think gives it a great look. Some quirks like the ambient lighting that will change colors too, just something that BMW has done. But even the seats have a nicer feel to them, in my opinion. We have a different material, but we have some more bolstering support on both sides as well. And so I think it's a nice update. From reviewing this vehicle, a lot of people are a little bit confused with the look of it compared to some other manufacturers. I think it has a really nice look. In terms of driving it, it's going to be nearly identical to the previous model. I like the refinements, I like the updates, the materials, just the layout of everything a little bit more. So comment your thoughts. Let me know, do you like the previous technology and interior, or do you like this latest generation and interior? From the test drives that I have been able to do, it seems like they are going to be fairly similar in terms of their drive, daily driving, and maybe some sporty driving here and there. So coming back to our final thoughts now between both of these generations for the M235. I know those were quick test drives, but again, you can take a look at the full detailed review for more driving impressions with the latest generation. It seems that the previous generation is going to be fairly similar, just a little bit subtle differences, especially with the transmission. Shifts are still going to be about the same from the test drives I was able to do. Power-wise, you're looking very similar too, mainly just the exterior styling and the interior technology and updates. So which model would you take? Personally, I would go with the latest generation. I like the refinements, just the overall design for the interior versus some of the tech features for the previous generation. But comment down below, which model would you go with and why? If you enjoyed today's video, give it a huge thumbs up and consider smashing that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with our daily uploads. I will see you all in the next video.